Good evening, everyone. We got an update on the East Palestine, Norfolk Southern Derailment train 32N. I've been down from the camp for almost a week here. My first thing, trip out of the house and made out to the garage. So, kind of mapped things out everywhere. I didn't get all the CP and miles numbers of the things in between, but Norfolk and Southern 32N, 3 February 2023. About 1 3/4 miles long, 2.82 kilometers long. Track 1 eastbound. It's a 2-line railroad. I heard it came from the Cleveland line into Alliance, Control Point Alliance is CP. Fort Wayne runs directly west. We're not sure where it came from. It came from a yard in Illinois. They do a hump yard. They configure a train by cars, put them together. This was headed to Conway to be taken apart, reconfigured, and moved on to the next rail yard. So it made CP Alliance, that's east of here, maybe 13 miles. I'm at the location where the fire was spotted, the very street. That's South Ellsworth in Salem. At the Butech Bliss video, they have a whole bunch of buildings down there now. And it's seen on an angle like south-southwest. And it just crossed South Ellsworth. And it's on fire. And we'll get to that in a second. So after Alliance, it travels east. Track 1 is the south track. Sebring. And this hotbox detector, I believe, was further west when I worked for Conrail. Right now, it's 79.8 is what the call is on the radio. NTSB has it listed 79.9, I believe. At that point, it recorded at 38 degrees above ambient temperature. So there wasn't an alarm going out. It just said, hey, everything's fine once the train's passed. It would have said Norfolk Southern milepost 79.8, and I've got videos. You can listen to all three of these detectors. Track 1, no defects, and it'll do that twice. Okay, towards Salem, it goes actually between Sebring and CP Murph. It goes through a little village of Beloit. CP Murph is the next interlocking control point. From there, it crosses Ohio Route 14, comes in on a southeasternly route along Route 14, comes on into town, crosses State Street under a bridge, and crosses Pershing. I think it's Wilson, Jennings, Wilson, and New Garden. So Pershing, Wilson, New Garden. Pershing, Wilson, New Garden, Mullins, and then Ellsworth. They're all pretty close together. They're all like DAX, UAX, off the crossings at South Lincoln and Pershing. Since there's a whole bunch of crossings together, they work off of inductive reactance, AC signal shot up the track through a set of capacitors buried under the rail. And as that inductive reactance changes, it determines how far away the train is from the crossing, knocks the gates down. So it's on fire coming on my street, South Ellsworth. That's Butech Bliss. About 69.6 train stations right across the street on South Ellsworth. That was taken out in a 1997 derailment. About a half a mile east of there, before it gets to South Lincoln, just off Snyder Road, it hit the next hot box detector at 103 degrees. Train passes by, they get a signal on their radio. 161.070 megahertz. Norfolk Southern, track 1, no defects. And it's on fire, sparks, fires, and it was a bitter cold night. This is the night after, this is the day after Groundhog Day. I didn't find out about this till Saturday night. I watch streaming TV, so there's no local stations. I found about this on Saturday night. So at this point, it's about a block away from my son's house. So you can tell I'm fired up and pissed. Remember, it's 10 degrees outside, and I think it's real windy. Plus, you've got the wind chill of a traveling train. So when it derailed, they said it was traveling 47 of 50 allowed miles per hour. And I can't even find my old timetable, and it would be a quarter century old. So these hot box detectors, and I've got them on here, they set them at 170 to 200 degrees as a non-critical stop and inspect the bearing. This thing's on fire, and its first setting was 38 degrees above ambient. Spotted on fire on a security camera, and at half a mile later, it shows 103 degrees above ambient. It's on fire. The bearing's shot. It's 10 degrees outside. Have these things been tested in the cold? The other railroad I just checked out on a video where it actually sheared the axle, theirs are set 150 degrees for a problem. But what temperature outside? There's the problem. Your crap doesn't work. The further eastward, it leaves Salem and heads to Latonia. Crosses Route 11, 4-laner, goes into Columbiana, another town. Each one of these places could have been devastated by this, or a major waterway. Like between Alliance and Sebring, you have the Mahoning River. That's a major water source. So Latonia, Columbiana, and CP Lum is the next control point, the third one. From Alliance, that's visible just west of Route 7. Travels to New Waterford, Ohio, a tiny community, and then comes in East Palestine. At Ohio Route 170, about 30 yards to the east, is the next hot box dragger. Records 253 degrees above Fahrenheit. Finally, the crap that they plugged in alerts them. And they got it set 170 to 200. You can stop and look at it. Oh, and they go. Well, to stop and look at a 1.75 mile long train, there's your first problem. Normally, they have a conductor and engineer here. They had a trainee of one of those on there also, so a crew of 3. So if you walk the entire train, this was car 23, so it wasn't too far behind the locomotive. But you double 1.75 mile if you walk the whole train and inspect everything. So they got it set 170, 200 non-critical, above 200 critical, stop and remove the car. Well, that crap didn't work. It hit 38 degrees in Sebring on a 10-degree night, and it's on fire by the time it gets to Salem. 10 miles later. It's failed in Sebring. It's on fire. Reads 103 degrees, which is like, hell, let's keep going. Their system didn't work. Their settings are crap. And they put everybody's life in danger. So I got written up there, the first 10 miles between Sebring Hotbox and Salem. Pretty much just over 10.5 miles. It averaged an increase of 5.9 degrees Fahrenheit per mile. And that's if it was linear. This stuff probably not going to be linear, because the worse that caged bearing set goes on a 6.5-inch axle, is what I'm assuming the size of the axle is. You know, each mile is going to be worse than the last. And then the last 20 miles, I just guessed out, averaged out 7.5 degrees up per mile on the temperature the last 20 miles. So 30 miles, and we don't know what the previous detector is, either on the Cleveland line or the Fort Wayne line. Now, the NTSB report says Norfolk Southern installed these. Bullshit. We had these installed while it was Conrail. And given Norfolk Southern reputation, I went to CPE and you can see the videos I posted. I'm looking for the next detector. We had one in New Galilee, Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, past the next control point, east of the derailment. It's gone. I went out there and looked, listened for trains. I waited for another train. I went back and forth 3 times between Enon and New Galilee. Waited for a train a 3rd time and followed them out there. Waited, nothing. They actually removed the safety device. So one thing is to find out what these safety devices cost to put in and maintain. I've heard that they record it. There's different brands. It might record 100 trains. And of course, when something goes wrong, they'll go back and get the information. Is what they did on this one. 38 degrees, 103 degrees, 253 degrees. So when they hit the one in East Palestine, the NTSB report says they went into a dynamic braking. And if you got an electric car like me, that's braking by using your engine generator. It's an electric engine stop. I'm not an expert on driving trains. I've worked on the railroad. But that tells me that everything's coming together. Your train's contracting. Everything expands and contracts with the joints on the trains where the cars connect. And this probably contracted the train. First report verbally was the train put in emergency. The NTSB report says the train went into automatic emergency because of air hoses were disconnected, and that's car 23 was the car 23 on train 32N was the first one to derail. I guess it was carrying plastic pellets in a hopper car, which I call a grain car or something. The derail happened. I guess those guys disconnected the engine and moved east. NTSB report says the crew wasn't at fault. They never got any warnings. They had no idea about these temperatures. So it's an equipment problem and it's a programming problem. Are these tested and what temperatures? It was 10 degrees out. I mean, it was bitter cold. Not just the wind chill from the movement of a train going 47 miles an hour, but the wind chill, of the winds that night. Derail says about 8:54 p.m. Milepost 49.8 is the hotbox detector. The train derailed down the tracks quite a ways because 23 cars past 2 engines had to hit that detector. And that's where they got their warning. And that's where the shit hit the fan. So they didn't install this stuff. They might have moved it around. They might have replaced units. This stuff was in. I'm not familiar with the East Palestine hotbox detector, but the New Galilee one I'm extremely familiar with. The Salem one and the Sebring one I thought was further west toward Alliance when I worked on the railroad, around where the Cleveland line, not the Cleveland line, the Lordstown line would branch off for General Motors shipment of cars back then. So I might put a video together where you can hear all three of those detectors going off, and they all read normal like it did for these guys, except East Palestine. By then, the town was ruined and the whole surrounding community. Uh, it looks like March 5th, they're going to stop rail traffic, at least on one of the tracks, remove the tracks, and dig up all the soil that's underneath. And that's had, what, 2-3 weeks for everything to sink in. They're going to remove the dirt, replace everything with new rail lines. And I don't know how long. It says it's going to take a while. So there it is. Alliance, Sebring, Beloit, Salem, Latonia, Columbiana, New Waterford, East Palestine. And then that cloud is out there of death the night it happened. There was first responders from Pennsylvania, all over Pennsylvania and Ohio there. Don't know the wind direction that night. The night they did the cloud, the wind actually shifted at least 180 degrees. So it was affected to the south and then to the north as far as Cortland. People smelled the fumes. And that's at the lower end of Mosquito Lake in Ohio along Route 11. So I loaded some videos before the report came out of my trip there a week ago Tuesday. Like I said, I've been down for the count. Still don't feel good enough to drive. I'm sitting down, which, of course, from my railroad neck injury, I've got 3 chairs up here, 1 chair, 2 chairs downstairs. I do something, I have to sit down. Today I'm a little woozy and dizzy. Whatever stomach ailment I had over the weekend isn't completely letting go. So there it is. Can't think of anything else to add right now. I might go further past Enon someday if I'm bored and check out other places. I work out to toward Elwood City, Homewood Junction, I think is the next interlocking after Enon Valley. Okay, one thing I wanted to say is there's another video out there I caught. I was about a year old, maybe. It's a strange guy. I've watched him on some stuff on hotbox detectors. Not the kind I want to work with, but he's an old guy working on a railroad. If you want to look up something that's show you what this looks like, YouTube, the title of it's called Coal Car Derailed, Axle Cut in Half. And he seems to laugh about stuff that I just take too seriously. So he's got one where the end of the axle was sheared off. And he'll say it alerted. Well, it went by. It didn't ever alerted his. His was set at 150 on his rail line, milepost 8. And he's got a video about that covering East Palestine or whatever. He's injecting his railroad out into flatland somewhere into the railroad here. And that milepost 8 is the dragger and the hotbox detector he covers. So he said the bearing sheared off, or the end of the wheel sheared off because the bearing failed. The last read, 6.5 miles, it got a 43 degree above ambient, which is close to what we got in Sebring here. It was a coal train. It made it, like I said, 6.5 miles later, and it failed. It actually sheared the axle off on his. So, does this stuff work? They need more, just better companies to make the technology out there. So the settings didn't work. The equipment didn't work. And then Norfolk Southern saying they installed these as safety devices is bullshit. It was there when I got there. And they removed the one in New Galilee. We were working a crossing in New Galilee with a supervisor one day, and the dragger kept going off. That's how I know that was there, because when I worked on the railroad, it actually told you the name of the location. It would say Conrail, Salem, Ohio, Conrail, Sebring, Ohio, Conrail, New Galilee, Ohio. And train went by, and the dragger, the dragger and hotbox kept reporting track 1 or track 2, no defects, no defects, no defects, and it wouldn't shut up. And I remember back then the engineer would answer, such and such engine, Conrail, track whatever. I'm looking real good because he had so many reports from this damn thing that wouldn't shut the hell up. So I went out there looking for it visually, followed the train out there, it's gone. That protects protects New Galilee, Enon Valley, Pennsylvania, and East Palestine on westbound trains. So what's the cost of this equipment compared to saving lives? The way companies run in this country, they'd rather pay out and destroy wildlife, waterways, and people's lives than to put the money up front. Wall Street and the stock market rules everything, investors. So, not a happy camper. So there's the map. I'll take a picture of it, and I'll best picture I can, and that'll be the title on the video here. So I'm going to head back inside. I don't plan on driving anywhere till I feel 100% better here. Be safe out there. If you live near the road, you might want to get a scanner. Some of your police frequencies and stuff have went digital, like our local one. The railroad and a lot of the other communities are still analog around here. They can't afford the new equipment. And this signal on the railroad is still analog. I'm sure after this they're going to want to go digital to get rid of people like me from listening in and stuff. But they sell digital scanners. All right. Check out the other videos. We got all kinds of stuff on there. And the previous YouTube channel is No Rust Studios for peaceful outdoor videos over a decade ago in high definition. And then Alto Super has some short videos on antique boat motors. On one of those, I've got Antique Westinghouse Computer on YouTube that runs the railroad yard at Conway. And it's a vacuum tube and relay computer system from Westinghouse in the early 1950s. All right, be safe.